Well, hello and welcome to the Wine and Wisdom Show. Thank you for being here on a Wednesday night. For those of you who have been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I so appreciate seeing your friendly faces in the comments section and all your interaction. It's truly wonderful. And for those of you who are here for the very first time, welcome and cheers. This show, despite its name being, of course, about sharing a wine together and sharing some wisdom, is actually all about connection. And I think if that's one thing that we have learnt over the last year and a bit, is that as humans, we crave to be connected with other humans who will bring a smile to our faces, some warmth to our hearts, and some wisdom to our brains. And let me tell you that tonight we have a guest who is definitely going to do all of that. But before I bring her on, I'm just going to give you a little bit more information about what is in store for tonight, because really the show, I have felt lucky all my life to be surrounded by very resilient and courageous self-leaders who I believe are making the small little differences that actually have a really big impact across the world. And I wanted to bring them here to share them with you. And that is why we are here. Tonight's amazing topic is called harassment. Can there be sunshine after the storm? And of course, this is a very topical topic right now, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're not going to talk about tonight, but what we are going to talk about tonight. But before I do that, I would really love to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians and elders spread across the many lands that we are all located on tonight. I'm actually personally coming to you from the lands of the Arakwal people in the Byron Bay Shire, and I want to pay my respects to all these traditional owners who have nurtured and protected this wonderful country that we all get to work, live and play in. All right, I'm going to bring up our guest right now. Her name is Karen Maher, and oh my gosh, she started her career as a lawyer. She's obviously always going to be a lawyer, but what she's doing right now is changing the world. And I'm going to bring her up while I talk about it, because that'll kind of embarrass her as well. But hello, Karen. I'll say hello first before I say anything else. Cheers to you. Welcome to the Wine and Wisdom.
Thank you, Heidi. No pressure. I'm changing the world.
You are changing the world. You are changing the world. And Karen, she is an incredible work health and safety consultant, a keynote speaker, and she's completely passionate about ensuring that organizations and their leaders can create cultures that will not allow any kind of bullying or sexual harassment, so that everybody can go to work and feel safe and feel connected and feel purposeful and be a part of something that they want to be, without having to have any kind of fear or worry and concern. Karen, I don't know if that is a good description of what you're doing every day. Perhaps you can share with us more about all the goodness that you're sprinkling around the world.
Oh, thanks, Heidi. I think that's pretty spot on. I started as a lawyer and then I moved into consulting. I started as a lawyer when I was in 2003, and then worked in that space for about 7 years in Australia and then in the UK, and mostly in the safety and the employment law space. And then I came back to Australia and just moved into the consulting area and did a lot of investigations and all of that sort of reactive type work. And then I just felt a bit like enough was enough, because I felt like all I was doing is helping organisations put fires out. And that was really frustrating for me. So the last few years I've really focused on putting all of my effort into the proactive piece, and really working with organisations to try and get them ahead of the game, and really, trying to prevent these poor behaviours from happening in the first place. Because as you said, that's where we want to be, and where we can go to work and we feel safe and we're not being hassled and things like that. So, yeah.
And it's, I've just thought about that old analogy about, people, pulling people out of the river who are drowning, and you just keep pulling them out, was rather than going down to where it's all started from and finding out why they're traveling down a river in the first place. And that is what you're doing, isn't it? It's just this prevention work to ensure that we don't have to spend so much time and resources, and people aren't put in these situations that can destroy their lives and everyone around them who's affected.
Yeah, 100%. We've just spent so long in Australia being on the back foot, and if we don't sort of work really hard and put some effort and commitment into it, that's where we'll stay. And so we want to stop pulling the bodies out of the river or the people out of the river, and we want to, really get ahead of the game and have a plan and just be a bit more strategic about it. And we definitely can do it. And I've seen businesses and organisations do it, and they are doing it really well. But we've got some work to do, that's for sure.
It's time. It's time for change. Yeah, it is.
It is.
And thank you for doing what you're doing, Karen. I'd love to. I'd actually love to hear from everybody where they're coming from tonight, and where are you coming from, and do you have something in your glass? What is actually in your glass, Karen, tonight?
So I've got a really beautiful St. Hugo's from the Barossa, a Shiraz. So it's really nice.
Oh, it's a Shiraz kind of night. I again have a buttery Chardonnay because I always have a buttery Chardonnay, but it is nearly time for me to stop the Chardonnay and go into the reds. Yeah.
Getting a bit chilly, isn't it?
It is getting a little bit chilly. So, Karen, you spoke a little bit about what you started with. I had a guest last year, Michael Dixon. He's incredible, and he talked about the magical dance between choice and chance, and that sometimes we end up where we are because there's just kind of this, every little step leads to another little step, and here we are. Yep. But sometimes there's something actually quite big that happens to us that means that we are doing what we're doing. And I just wonder, what has it been for you? Has it been that kind of big moment in life, or has it been this kind of ripple effect of things that have led you to doing all the amazing work that you're doing right now?
Yeah, good question. I think probably a little bit of both, because I think when I was in my 20s, I went through a bit of a bad experience. So I started law school and then pretty much dropped out because I just couldn't really deal with federal constitutional law. It was just too heavy for me. And then so I left law, and then I started working in a restaurant, and all of a sudden I was the restaurant manager. It was a bit too good to be true. But before I knew it, I was being harassed pretty badly by an executive chef. And it kind of just sort of got worse and worse and worse. And I got to the point where at one point I kind of rejected his advances, and then from there the bullying started. And so there was, just the retaliation and just the victimization, and just really, it was pretty tough. And so not only was it against me, but then it was also against my staff as well. Even to the point where, he started throwing fry pans, and one hit one of my staff, a waitress that I worked with, and that was the end point for me. And I think at that point, being in my early 20s and, trying to raise it and no one wanted to listen, this person was untouchable and could do whatever he wanted. And I think for me, that was a turning point, because I felt like pretty powerless, to be honest. Yeah. And I think that really did push me back to law school, just to really see if I could, I guess make my voice stronger in what how I felt, because I think I've always been a pretty strong person, but I think that made a big difference for me to sort of go back to law school and just and then I stayed in that area. I really quite liked the employment area even while I was at law school. Yeah. And then, it is a little bit like that though. I think, the little things add up, and I've just sort of stayed in this space. So, and I think everybody, almost every single person I talk to, be it an Uber driver, be it a friend of a friend, when they ask what I do, everybody has a story. So,
yes,
in this space, which is a bit of a bad signal, isn't it? It's a bit of a bad sign. But so I think that's probably the catalyst, I think, of why I'm where I am. And I guess it does really make you feel really passionate about what you do, because, like I've got a little girl, she's 6 years old. And I think my big goal at the end of the day is to do whatever I can to make sure that when she gets into the workplace that, we've moved on from here. We've still got a long way to go, but yeah.
Well, I mean, imagine having having that personal experience, of course, always lights a fire, you know, when you're doing what you're doing. And also you've had that personal experience of lighting a fire in the first place, but also with having your 6-year-old daughter, just wanting to create that better world for her by the time she's ready to go into the workplace. I mean, I was reading a statistic recently, last week, by the Australian Human Rights Commission. And in the last 12 months, they said that 23% of women and 16% of men had reported being harassed at work. And I mean, that's 1 in 4 women, and, you know, just a little bit less with men, but that's a lot. And there's been so much in our news lately, and I know that we don't want to go down the whole political arena tonight at all, but there has been a lot going on that is finally coming to light. It can get very depressing, I would imagine. It must. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, how you deal with that later on. But you know, like our topic tonight, you know, do you think with everything that's going on, when we're so aware of all the things that make us feel like, oh my gosh, have we moved from the 50s? I don't know. Can there be sunshine after this storm, Karen? What are you seeing? Is there anything positive happening?
Oh, look, I think, you know, we've certainly had a roar, haven't we? And we've had, you know, I think we probably have to say in Australia, we've kind of hit rock bottom with these sort of poor behaviours and where we're at. And as they say, there's only one way up from there. But I guess the work and what I'm seeing, and I, you know, work with quite a few organisations and some pretty senior organisations in Australia, and with some pretty senior at executive level. And I can tell you, and I think what is positive is that there is a shift. And I've, you know, been seeing this happen for a couple of years. I've seen more of a shift in this space in the last few years than I have since 2003 when I started as a lawyer. So I think there definitely is sunshine after the storm. I'm so grateful to, you know, the amazing women who have been roaring, and to the, you know, to the Grace Tames of the world. And I mean, we owe so much to them, and just their courage to do what they've done. You know, I saw Grace Tame speak the other day, and she's just a Wonder Woman to me, and just listening to her story and the impact that she's had on Australia. I mean, she's really revolutioning, I can't even say the word, the way that we see these topics and how, you know, how we can do it better. So yeah, I think there is, you know, I think that there's a lot more appetite for, you know, even the boards in Australia they're listening now, and they're trying, and it's staying on the agenda, and we just have to keep it on there. And so, I think there is positive coming out of the storm, and we just have to keep the momentum up. Yeah.
We certainly do. And in Danielle's just put, unfortunately, studies reveal that as women become more empowered economically, violence against them increases. Wow. Is that what you're seeing as well, Karen?
So, I mean, I haven't actually seen that personally, but I mean, I wouldn't, you know, I certainly wouldn't say that that's not the case. But I mean, I think that, I mean, women in Australia, you know, all over the world, but also in Australia, we've got so far to come, you know, like we've got, you know, we have so much to learn, and we have so much to do to really, you know, to get to that gender equality point. And that's it. I mean, just, you know, there's so many unfortunate statistics out there. It doesn't surprise me, but we need to do some more work on that.
And I do want to just say now, I meant to say at the beginning that if this conversation does trigger anything for anybody, because you know, it is a tough topic, there are lots of different support places in Australia that you can reach out to. One of them is the 1-800-RESPECT, and of course there's Lifeline and Beyond Blue. So please, if this does trigger anything for you, reach out and connect with these professionals, because they are top of their game, definitely.
Yeah. I think we're very lucky, aren't we, in Australia, that we have these amazing support agencies, aren't we? So
we really are. And But again, wouldn't it be great that we didn't need them, but because we had all these prevention strategies in place, and that will be certainly what the goal will be going forward. And I know, Danielle, thank you for your comment, because I know this is a topic that's very close to your heart, and the work that Danielle has written a book, The Gender Code, and she has, she's doing amazing work in this space. And I know, hence why she's online. So thank you for being here, Danielle.
Definitely have a read of that. Yeah.
Yes,
fantastic.
you should. I think I'm going to connect the two of you actually after we come off, for sure. Karen, what are you seeing in our workplaces? What are you seeing in regards to tips and strategies that people are putting in place to ensure that we don't have these problems? What's working in organisations across Australia, at least?
So the organisations that I'm working with, or the ones that I'm seeing that are actually making change here and creating change and actually doing well, is they're not taking it off the agenda. They are keeping focused. They're staying focused. They're putting in place even champions in this space, so that we can make sure that, particularly with, really pushing the male voice in this area as well, because I think that's something that we've really been missing. Keeping it really solidly on the agenda, so we don't just kind of end up looking at the next big sort of issue that comes up. That's a big thing. A lot of the organisations now in Australia, and of course the laws are sort of really catching up, well, not the laws are catching up, but how our regulators view sexual harassment is really shifting as well. And so there's a really big push for us to start looking at sexual harassment in the safety space. And so, taking a look at it and thinking, how can we take a risk management approach to this, and how can we be proactive and look at sexual harassment and bullying and try to sort of manage these risks out of the workplace. And so I'm definitely seeing a lot of work being done there. And a lot of organisations are really sort of merging the HR and the safety teams as well. So we're looking at this saying, if people come to work and they're harassed or they're bullied, they're just not safe. And so that is the same as if they're, at risk of some other kind of safety concern. So I think they're the big things as well. So anything else? I think that a lot of what I'm seeing a lot of boards do now is really go back to their key documents as well, so their strategies, and they're going back to even their values and things like that, because I think there's been a bit of a fractured relationship between what their values say and what's happening in day to day. And so I think that they're definitely going back and really trying to push that a little bit more and get to the bottom of why that fracture is taking place. And there's a lot of work being done, but the organisations who are kicking goals are the ones who have a plan around this too. So they're planning how they're going to do it. They're not getting overwhelmed, but they're not letting it go as well. And
I'd love to hear for anyone who is watching right now live, or if you're watching later on, which often happens with these Facebook Lives, what organisations do you know that are doing this well? That, call them out. Let's celebrate the ones that we know who are doing a great job right now, despite it being a really tricky topic, a really tricky thing to address, and really hard to put policies in place. And when things come up, it's hard, but they're just giving it a go to do their very best and are succeeding. I'd love to hear and to celebrate those organisations. I mean, let me start it off, because I know one for sure that I can call out and celebrate, and that is Beaumont People, and I'd like to say that out loud. So if anybody would like to celebrate a company that is doing it well, let's do it, because they should be. Because often, we always get all the reports of the ones that are doing a shitty job. let's celebrate the good ones and try to
the bad stuff.
Yeah, let's see what they're doing. What are they doing to make it so good? I love, just everyone to take note that Emma has put here that the Beyond Blue Lifeline and 1-800-RESPECT can be contacted 24/7. Emma sits on those lines, and she's one of the people on the front line to take those calls. And I tell you what, these are the people more than ever have saved lives around our country and are doing such a great job. So thank you, Emma, for all you're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. And I think some of them even have the text as well, where you can be texting too. So I think that's amazing. It's very needed at the moment.
It's very relevant to how
Australia.
people like to communicate, right? You know, we've got to change our ways of how people will communicate.
So true.
If they don't want to talk because they're not in that space, but they're likely to text, which the younger generation are, then let's make it available for them. And I know that is the case. Karen, you know, when you talked about that situation you had all those years ago when you had the harassment yourself, what does an individual do when that is going on? I mean, I know if everything's perfect, if we're living in a perfect world, you go to HR and things are dealt with. But that's not always the way it works out, is it? So what can individuals do, male or female, you know, when something happens?
Okay, so I think I guess my tips would be to make sure that we're getting the support that you need. So these things can be really tough on people, particularly, I mean, not only if it's, you know, it might be a serious incident or it might be something that's ongoing. And so it wears people down and people can be really fearful about, you know, doing something. So I think the first thing I always say is to make sure that you're getting the emotional support that you need. And whether that be, you know, with your friends or with your family, or whether it's a counsellor or a psychologist, I just say get the support you need, because people slide down pretty quickly. And, you know, as they always say in the mental health space, that, you know, the further people go down, the harder it is to be pushing them back up. So 100%. Get the support you need. This is not easy. I think try to speak up if you can as early as possible, you know, and even if a lot of organizations are pushing now for self-resolution. So if you can say to someone, you know, can you not do that? I don't like it. Or, you know, can you not, you know, I don't want to be kissed hello, or can you not say those jokes around me? They just upset me.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, hopefully the other person has enough self-awareness to be saying, okay, sorry about that. That's an education piece usually. So yeah, just trying to, where you can, you know, speak up if you can. And hopefully, you know, if that doesn't work, you know, if you can speak up to a leader, even if you don't have the structured sort of HR set up, to speak up to someone that you respect. And that might not be your, you know, exact leader or your immediate leader. It might be someone else in the business who you feel confident to go and speak to. And I think we are getting better at that. We're not there yet. Some organizations, a lot of organizations do it better than others. I mean, if we go back to my example, it was hopeless. Like, I tried to report what happened and it just fell on deaf ears. It was like, don't worry about it. That's just the way he is. And that was the whole, you know, that was the solution. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard that before. But yeah, I think we're getting better at that. So I think also just, you know, keep a note of things that are happening too, because, you know, if you do ever need it, I mean, you hope that you don't, and you hope that you never kind of comes to anything. But if you have a record and you write it down and you keep it, you know, keep it contemporaneous. So that can be really helpful down the track too. I think just getting advice as well. So, you know, make sure that, you know, if you are in an organisation where they've got everything set up pretty well, you know, make sure you're learning, you know, grabbing the policies that are relevant to you and just having a look through those and seeing what the steps are and what you can be doing about it. And I think just keep getting advice. And I think that, you know, at the moment, if you're in an organisation and they don't support you, if you're really trying to do something, you speak up about it and you're not being supported, then, you know, I'd have to say at this point that your health's more important, you know, than to sort of stick it out and to try and be the martyr that changes everything. Because unfortunately, which is why I do what I do, a lot of organisations need, you know, they're just not there yet. And so I just don't think that, you know, you should be putting yourself at risk just to sort of prove a point, or, you know, so unfortunately it's, you know, I have a lot of friends of, you know, people who contact me and they ask, you know, I've got this happening with, you know, my son or my daughter or a friend, and, you know, they'll talk me through it. And, you know, I sort of talk to them about, you know, to see if you can get support, you know, in the workplace. And if it doesn't happen, and especially for, you know, particularly for younger people who I think are vulnerable workers, I always, you know, sometimes you've got to pull the eject cord and just, you've got to look after yourself first. So,
you do. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, Emma's made a really interesting comment there and question about being curious as to what support is offered to the perpetrators. to help them understand their actions and impacts they're having on others. You know, what happens in a workplace around that type of thing that you've seen happen? You know, apart from, you know, being disciplined, you know, is there education around that? Because often they don't even realise their impacts a lot of the time, it feels like.
I think that, I mean, we're sort of even struggling already, you know, at the moment, just to do well with the victim, so to speak. But so the support for perpetrators usually isn't great. I think that, you know, if we think about it, the best thing that we can be doing is to be educating people to start with. Again, that's a proactive piece, raising the awareness. So hopefully we prevent it. So hopefully they understand that, you know, what's okay and what's not okay and the impact of those behaviours. So yeah, to be honest, I don't see a lot of support out there for perpetrators, particularly if it's a more serious incident, then there's really not much support at all. Some organisations will have, you know, employee assistance program that would be offered to anybody involved in the process. Or I think it's a bit light on. I mean, you know, quite often I do quite a lot of individual counselling not counselling, I shouldn't say that, individual coaching as well. And so that can probably be, I guess, one way to try and help somebody to understand a little bit more about this. But again, it's just so reactive to me, try to, you know, getting somebody to come and work with someone like me and sitting there and having to go through it. I mean, I guess it's the best that we can do, but really I think, you know, organisations, what we really need to be doing is focusing on that proactive part. So we can hopefully prevent, you know, raise the self-awareness and get people thinking differently. And so we don't kind of get to that point where we have to sit down and explain to somebody, this is not okay. When you touch someone like this, it's not okay. Or when you say words like this, it's not okay. It's an education piece. And also to understand that it's a safety piece, you know, like, of course, it hurts people. I just seen that comment. Thanks, Mandy. I think unfortunately, I would, you know, with all of the work that's happening now, and, you know, we had a really big inquiry that was handed down last year, and of course, you know, the recent everything being in the spotlight in recent times, you know, there's been some traction finally to get some changes put into place, and it is so unfortunate. You know, you have your daughter who's, you know, in a casual job without that support, you know, and without you know, being a vulnerable worker, being a young worker, and thinking, is this just part of the job? Is this just what I've got to put up with? And I just think it's so unfair that we have to, you know, that they should have to leave their employment at, you know, such a young age, that they should have those experiences. But we've got so much work to do. But again, I will stand by what I say. And if you are worried about your children and you know, they are young, you know, I just saw something, a comment going on Facebook, where people were commenting the other day in one of the groups, and there was a young person who I think was 15 who was being bullied or something like that, and everyone was chiming in and telling this lady what to do with her daughter. And it was kind of crazy that they were saying, oh, you know, she should do this and she should stand up for herself. And I was thinking, well, no, you know, she's 15 years old. We need to protect, you know, these people. So, you know.
And why is it happening in the first place? You know, this is the thing. That's what gets me. Because I think, you know, I'm thinking 30 years ago, as a young teacher, I started my career as a teacher, and in my 20s, and I was doing extracurricular dance stuff with the girls and taking them to dance at Stedfords. And one night we were coming back late from one of these dance at Stedfords. I had four 15-year-old girls in my car. And, you know, they wanted to have McDonald's on the way home, and we were in the drive-through. And these Year 11 boys from the school that I taught at and the girls attended came up in the front of my bonnet, and they were slamming the bonnet of my car into the ground.
No way.
And it was 11 o'clock at night. It was so frightening.
Safe.
They finally got away. You know, someone came out and got them away, and we went home, and everyone was fine. But when I reported it the next day to the principal, the comment that I got was, oh, you know, those basketball boys, that's just what they do. And it's like, you know, where have we come in 30 years? Like, I think, gosh, that was back then. Perhaps, now on reflection, that was the times. But it makes me mad. Like, Mandy's saying that twice her daughters had to leave casual jobs because of this same kind of thing. It like blows my mind that this still happens so often.
Yeah. I think we need a shift, and I think it's happening, but we're definitely not there yet. But I'm really loving seeing the work that's happening, in schools, things are shifting there with this education piece, how we can really push to our young men about respecting women and the whole consent piece, and for young women as well. Like, I think, I've worked on plenty of cases in the past with men being sexually harassed and male on male or female on male, and there's no winners there. But it is good to see these positive initiatives, and they are coming, and they are happening. They're a long time coming, but again, there's some of the sunshine that's coming out of this, and seeing some really great stuff. We have to keep it in the conversation, and we have to keep talking, to our kids, and just keep pushing.
And I think part of the sunshine is exactly here what Emma's saying, that we have these support mechanisms here, that we have mental health plans that we can get from our GPs that are covered by Medicare, and we also have the EAP systems within organisations. I mean, that's all part of the sunshine, isn't it? That we do have support places like these, like 1-800-RESPECT, like Beyond Blue, like Lifeline. We do have that kind of sunshine coming out, which is absolutely terrific. But one thing, Karen, I would imagine, like what you do, I mean, it's so important, and please never stop, because you are sprinkling amazingness and changing the lives of people. You really are, and we don't want you to stop. But I would imagine that what you do can chip away at you sometimes and be pretty difficult to, feel the sunshine yourself and feel optimistic and feel mentally healthy when there's a lot of this kind of negativity around you. What do you do to ensure that, I like to say, keeping your resilience bucket topped up? What is it that you do to make sure that you can keep that gorgeous smile on your face, and you can keep focused, and you can feel positive about the work that you're doing, so that sunshine continues to happen for everybody else?
Oh, look, I think the thing that really shifts my mindset and keeps me sort of focused and keeps the resilience up is just really exercise and meditation sometimes, if I can fit it in. Because it can get heavy, and I mean, particularly before, when I was doing a lot of reactive, the investigations, and they can be awful, like even up to fatalities and things like that. So just kind of sitting in that for going through those cases for maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks is pretty tough. So I think you do need to make sure that you do kind of lock in that self-care as much as you can. Walking Fonzie is a big one for me.
Do you mean this Fonzie? Do you mean that little Fonzie? Look at that face.
There he is. He's just living the life. But he's a big part. He's a big part of all of this, and just I think we have to do that. We have to really make sure that we fit these things in. Otherwise, it can get on top of you. But I think the more positive work that we do, and when I started really consulting in this space 10 years ago, it was pretty tough because no one really wanted to hear about this, and I'd get to a lot of sessions and there'd be a lot of eye rolls and things like that. Or what are we doing here? What a waste of time. But that is just changing so much, and the sessions that when I work with people now, it's just so different, and you can really feel that. And people are engaged, and when you ask them at the end what are their key takeaways and things like that, it's just incredible to see how people can how we can shift their mindset and really get them thinking about actually changing things for the better. So I think the fact that I'm more in the proactive area as well is a big difference to my resilience, because I found the reactive stuff is hard, and I think it's got a bit of a time limit on it, because it's just it's just really tough.
Yeah, I would imagine. And my final question for the night for you is: we are on the Wine and Wisdom show, So we've had a few sips of wine. Now it's time for extra pieces of wisdom. I'd love to know which piece of wisdom has been handed down to you by somebody that has made the biggest impact in your life. And yeah, tell us about that.
All right, so this is a bit of a funny one. I had an old friend, an old Italian man that I knew like 20 years ago. And he said something that was quite profound to me, and it's just a bit strange probably, but that I must have been freaking out about something and getting frustrated with something. And he said to me, Karina, which is I think Italian for Karen, and he said, Karina, you cannot kick every stone on the road or you will always need new shoes. And yeah, I don't know, it's just a big one for me because it really just made me think, you can't kind of, get upset about everything, and you can't kick every stone on the road. And it's something that I always talk to my kids about as well. We can't kick every stone on the road, and we've got to keep getting new shoes. Yeah, so it's just a bit of a funny one. And it just kind of, just take you down a notch when things are getting a bit hectic. Yeah, that's my big one.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. I think that applies to all of us, right?
It applies to so many things. It was so weird. It was a bit of a random comment. And at that time, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take that one.
Yeah, well done. Well, that's so nice to have that piece of wisdom. Thank you for sharing it. And Karen, I know also you have you've curated all your very best work right now and just launched some online courses that are really making a massive difference within organisations for their leaders and their teams. And tonight you have very kindly offered to anyone who mentions the Wine and Wisdom or my name tonight, you get 15% off those courses, and we'll put the link directly in the comments after the show. How's that all going? What are you hoping to achieve with your smart culture work?
Yes, so with the smart culture work, I think with COVID and everything changing so much, with bullying harassment sort of programs, people always wanted them face-to-face, but then of course COVID hit, and a lot of my clients were really pushing, saying, do you have online? And so it kind of pushed me to do it. So we really tried to put the face-to-face feel and all of the elements of the courses into the online. And so I guess it just has a bigger reach for everybody as well. And I think it's easier, you can just learn from home in your pajamas and your Ugg boots and things like that, having a glass of wine at the same time. Hopefully I'm not too boring. And and with the smart culture work, we've also got like momentum sessions. So organizations can work with me and some of my consultants as well, just to keep the momentum up and do review work and strategy work as well. So the training part is definitely a very key part, but it has to be supplemented with strategy and a plan. Otherwise, everyone gets excited and they do the training, but then life gets busy again and core behaviors creep back in and things like that. So trying to create a bit of a solution really there. And still the face-to-face sessions as well. So loving it.
Oh, it's wonderful. And thank you for that work you're doing. And
thank you.
If anyone wants to reach out, please, if you've got any kind of questions, because I know these kind of topics, sometimes people don't want to talk about them in a live forum, but I'm sure, Karen, you would be really open to having any questions sent to you about any issues that are going on within their workplaces, and perhaps, I know definitely your golden nuggets would be able to perhaps show that little light forward to bring that sunshine after the storm that perhaps is going on.
We need some sunshine, everyone.
We do need some sunshine.
As we go into winter, we need sunshine.
Yeah, we do. Karen, thank you so much for all your amazingness tonight. It's been incredible to hear of the good work you're doing in a time, it's a real time in history for us in Australia, and you are at the forefront of it, making a huge change and a huge difference to individuals and organisations. But I think it's more of course, that you're doing the work within the organisations, but the ripple effect for individuals is what I know gets you up in the morning to allow you to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you so much.
I think it's important for having me. I think it's important for us just to mention this last comment from Miranda. Thank you so much, Miranda, as a teacher in an all-boys school, keeping a balance between healthy masculinity is an ongoing challenge. Yes, thank you. And I would imagine, Miranda, you have a tough job doing that all the time. And we thank you for the work you're doing with these young boys. Because they're growing up to be the ones in the workplaces. So, this is our teachers are the ones
where it starts, isn't it?
Where it starts, and they are forgotten so much that the impact they're making. So thank you, Miranda.
Yeah, thank you, Miranda.
For all of your colleagues. But thank you so much, Karen. I'm going to wrap it up because I'm starting to ramble because I just, I love this show and I love talking to you so much.
So nice.
I'm going to be putting all the information that everybody needs about Karen, the work she's doing, in the comments straight after the show. So you can come back to there at any time. But in the meantime, enjoy your wine for the evening.
Enjoy your wine. Ching, ching.
A little bit of balance is good for your resilience. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.